I'ma go.
All right. Welcome to another live broadcast here. So glad that you guys could make it. Sorry for my tardiness. I had to take care of a few things behind the scenes, but I'm here now. So glad that you guys are here. And I made it. I made it here, y'all, because let me tell you, this week, for some reason, well, whatever, it's just my body's doing what my body does. Man, it just started in my throat, and I felt like I was, my throat was sore a little bit, and then I was taking some black seed oil, and then I was taking some something else, olive leaf tea. It was clove leaf tea, clove oil, something like that. It was clove oil, right? And I took some of that. My throat went away. My soreness went away. Then it just traveled up to my nose, and that's when I started feeling, all of that. So that's like clearing out right now. So if my voice sounds a little different, that's why. Okay, now, I did something because I woke up. Anytime I start feeling like I'm catching something or whatever, and I'm gonna look this up, but man, how many of you guys, like, when you're not feeling like 100%, especially like if it's like a full blown, like if it's something up here or you got a chest thing going on, do you guys ever encounter like when you having dreams is like very, very vivid? Like my dreams get so vivid, it's like scary. It's really something. So, and it's to the point where I can't even sleep in my own room. I have to go into another room because I just keep getting up and all of that. So I have to literally sleep in a whole different room when I'm not feeling 100%. Because my dreams, man, it just be really something. Like it's almost like watching a whole movie. Almost, it gets very vivid, and so I got up one day, and my throat was still bothering me a little bit. And I was like, I got to take something for my throat, man. And I had and I was just grabbing anything. I had just woke up. It was like real early in the morning. I don't know what this oil was, because we have a whole cabinet of all kind of stuff, not just Samba tree stuff, but just all kinds of stuff. And anyway, I forgot what it said, sore throat or something. And it was like a whole bunch of essential oils and all that. I was like, listen, I'll just take whatever, And I said, well, what's the instructions, right? Again, not really fully processing everything that time in the morning. It was like and they were like, oh, just take 2 drops and put it under your tongue, and that's it. And so I was like, shoot, I'll do that. Man, I put, let's say it was probably like 3, because I couldn't feel it. So I was like, like that under my tongue. Oh my gosh. When I tell you fire, it was a silent scream. Like I couldn't scream. I was literally running downstairs like this. And I'm not making this up. I'm not exaggerating. I was like I just, cause it was the pain. Oh my gosh, the pain. I just, it was unreal. And I just ran into I said, okay, I got to take something. I got to drink something, whatever. And, but in my mind, I was thinking, when it's oil, you just making it worse if you drink, And so I said, I don't care. I got to take something. And, my throat felt so raw at first. But at the end of all of that, it felt better. But the moral of the story is this. Essential oils, no, you got to dilute it. You do have to dilute it. Don't ever do that. I don't know whose fool behind wrote that, those instructions, but no, you never do that. Not with essential oils. You don't want to just take it straight up like that. You want to mix it in with something, even if you just take a drop or two and then down it with some, juice or water or something like that. You don't want to just do the oil by itself, man. It's So that was a straight up lesson that I learned. And it was something. But like I said, now I'm definitely feeling strong enough. I wanted so bad to go live yesterday, but I just didn't have the energy on. I just did not. Only whatever I did yesterday, that was all I had the energy for, and that was it. So I'm here today, and it kind of worked out because I know it's gonna sound kind of cruel, but Jesse Jackson died. So it kind of worked out in a way. And when you see what we're going to talk about this evening, you're going to understand why I said what I just said. But anyway, good to see everybody here. So glad that you guys can join us on this lovely day of February the 17th, 2026. And another beautiful day out here in sunny Arizona. Oh, it was such a nice day, wasn't it, Todd? It was such a nice day out today. The clouds were just a chef's kiss cloud. I mean, it was just so nice. It was a nice breeze. Oh, it was so lovely. Let me check the comments real quick. I got someone, Saints. Oh, that's a long handle. I'm gonna read it though. Saints 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0 0. Ain't nobody taking that one. Anyway, they said, I'll put it up here. They said, hello, just got my organic citrus box and the fruit was amazing. It has been years since oranges. It's been years since oranges with seeds in it. Thanks again for what you guys are doing. I probably will order another box. Well, you better go ahead and do it because it's not going to be, like all seasons come to an end. So yes, I am so glad you enjoyed it. And guess who's been taking? Me too. I've been eating them too, and just peel. I said, I ain't gonna even slice it with a knife. I'm just gonna sit back here in the backyard, and I'm just peeling it with my hands. I said, I'm just gonna go all the way. And it was so nice, and they were so sweet too. I'm gonna have to. I have to juice. I haven't juiced them yet. But I will be doing that. And for those of you, did you get that little extra surprise we put in there? Because we put a very unique lemon in there. Because if you got the box, you got your lemons, but we put a very unique lemon in there. That was like a bonus we just wanted to add in there for the family. So yeah, so that's what we do when we find a little extra thing in there. We're going to hook you up, okay? So really appreciate that feedback. Thank you so much. Anyway, so make sure you check that out over at sombertree.com. We still got plenty of fruit. But like I said, again, all seasons come to an end. So don't just be sitting around thinking or whatever, because like they said, where else are you going to go? And in these days, you're going to get oranges with seeds in them, y'all. That's very important. It's very important. And yes, there is a difference between seeded versus non-seeded. You know why these companies do that? Because the way they structure, how you go to your grocery store and it ain't just tomatoes anymore. Now it's the Bob Jones variety or the Janice, Crawford variety or whatever. It's never like a Dwayne variety. Maybe I need to think about that, but ain't no black names. But anyway, like it said a few years ago, they was like, why are these hurricanes? Why they never have black names? Anyway. But anyway, because these companies, they create these different varieties of different sweetnesses, different textures, because that is their way of, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, they put their stamp on it. It's theirs. It's copyrighted. It's their stuff. And so, if you like a certain type of apple and a certain type of crisp or certain type of sweetness to it or whatever, and it's of a certain variety and it doesn't have seeds in it, even though I haven't seen apples without seeds, at least not yet. But I know for oranges and stuff like that, they do have different varieties, and these companies literally, and vegetables too, some variety of vegetables, they will do that because it's their trademark, it's their product. But this is nature that we're talking about here. And so where we go to real growers who just do this for a living, and they just have all these trees of lemons, of oranges, of grapefruit, and there's some other fruit out there too. We were kind of checking those out too, but that's kind of what we got going on out here. And so, yeah, that's where we go. And, they'll either pick it for us, or sometimes we'll pick it ourselves or whatever. We box it up really nice and good for you and send it on your way. So make sure you check that out. Again, it's over at sombertree.com. Not to mention, also mention too, we just released our what you call it, our supplement collection. Make sure you check that out as well. We got a full line of supplements. And if you're one of these people who are like, man, I just, it's just too much being thrown at me, don't worry about it. We got you. We always got y'all. Okay. We always got you when it comes to, we're not going to just throw a whole bunch of things in your face like that. We're going to help you out. We're going to show you, okay, this is how just take a look at this, right? And step by step. So I created a little booklet right here. When I say booklet, it's like a one pager, and basically keeping it simple when it comes to supplements. And so here's the whole line of supplements that we have, not there, but if you click onto the supplements page, we got a whole bunch. And right now, if you buy 2, you get another one for you. I'm sorry, I'm giving out another discount. If you buy 2, you get free shipping. There you go. If you buy 2 supplements, you get another one. And we're going to be adding some more very soon. We've just been so busy, but we got a lot more things that we're going to be adding to the site as well. Make sure you check that out. One other thing I'll mention, and then we'll move on here. Make sure y'all still been buying up this 8-herb multi. If you like me, grew up in a time where red juice was the juice, you definitely want to make sure you get this multi. You definitely want to make sure you get this, because unlike these other juices out here, this ain't just juice, it's tea. And this tea, it has 8 herbs in it. But when you drink it, it tastes like that red juice back in the day. You know what I mean? It's good. That's the only way I could describe it. And apparently a lot of y'all agree with me on this, because we've been getting a lot of people buying this stuff here. It's got hibiscus, soursop, nettle, moringa, burdock, horsetail, oat straw, rose hips. It's got all of that in there. So yeah, make sure you check that out. I have something on my phone I want to show you as we move away. Again, make sure you check that out. Again, the website is sombertree.com. Check that out. I had something else here. It was on my phone. I was going to make it a post. I probably still will make it into a post, but let me show you this. Let me see, because I took a picture of this. And yes, we will. For those of you, this is your first time, you're like, just get to the point. That's what I clicked on. Well, again, y'all, this is how we do our lives. We're going to get to it. I had someone leave a comment recently, and they were like, I like what you're saying, but you're just so long-winded, and you're always repeating things over and over again. Well, I'm sorry. I apologize. I do apologize. But I find myself having to repeat things a lot of times, because when you go back, oftentimes people, they don't remember. They're like, oh, you said that? I'm like, yes, I said that like in 3 videos already. Anyway, it's okay. We'll take all the feedback. All right, we'll take all the smoke. Anyway, check this out. I was in a grocery store the other day, and I came across this. Let me bring this up here on the screen here. Not that one. Here we go. There you go. Will it show? There we go. Here we go. This right here. That's what I came across here. And Jamaican hibiscus. So I'm like, okay, all right, okay. They got hibiscus, and it's in a powder form and all of that. I already knew. Listen, my Mexican brothers and sisters, they already know. I love y'all, but man, when y'all know how to do sweet, I mean, it's a fault. It's to a fault. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, it ain't just cake. That cake is way high on the charts of sweetness and sugar. They get down when it comes to sugar, man. And it's no different with the drinks, because you think, oh, I'm just getting a regular drink. No, man. Oh, it's a natural juice. Yeah, flip that thing in the back. I got to ask questions. I'm like, okay, what exactly are you putting in there? Oh, man. Half of it's sugar? Okay, I'm good. But, you know, that's their thing, whatever. Anyway, but that's the front. Okay, but check out the back. Check out the back here. Hold on. Check out the ingredients. Now, it said hibiscus in the front, right? Now, they're not necessarily false advertising here, but I expect to find hibiscus in it at least. Look at the ingredients. Sugar, maltodextrin, I guess that's how I'm saying. Maltodextrin, citrus acid, natural flavor, silicon dioxide, FD&C, red number 40, sucralose, absorbent acid, vitamin C, FD&C, blue number 1. What in the world? This is a contains sulfites. They're going to make sure they tell you all of that. But yeah, but you know, our stuff, when we say we sell hibiscus tea, it's hibiscus flowers, dried hibiscus flowers. There ain't all that other stuff here. You know, we got to take control of our own food supply and what we supply to each other. And that's what we do at sombertree.com. So make sure you check it out. Okay, so this broadcast here. Oh, someone said, what's up, family? Took me a minute to join as YouTube is partially down. Oh, I didn't know that. Well, thank you for telling me. Okay, well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. Well, anyway, so tonight's broadcast, I'm going to just tell you, when I just told you, I said, when I get sick, I just have these very vivid kind of dreams. I'm in another place. And usually when I come out of my dream, I mean, out of my cold or whatever you want to call it, I get into this mode where I'm about as raw as I can be for a minute. And, you know, so the filters aren't exactly all in place tonight. I'm just letting you know, okay? They're not going to be all in place right now. My body's right now is just putting things back together. So I'm just letting you know that the filters are all not going to be there tonight, okay? But what filter isn't going to be present, and I will tell you, is that there's nothing at all that I'm going to say that's going to filter out the truth, okay? We're going to tell the truth tonight. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to delve into, we're going to talk a little bit about this, Jesse Jackson. As you know, he passed away. I think he was 84, 85 years old. And it was just quite amazing to sit back, and I'm on Twitter, and just all of these people just lionizing this man and saying, oh, he helped the Palestinians. He brought them to the table. And I remember there was something in D.C. and it was at the Venezuelan embassy or something like that, and he brought them food, and and then of course it's all the clips. Some of you that are old enough, you guys, for those of you who are old enough, I was quite a baby then, so I can't be honest with you and say I remember this, but there was a music festival in, I want to say it was the 70s. It had to be the 70s. If it was the 70s, it was either the early 70s or the 60s. If it was in the 60s, I was a thought. I wasn't even there yet. Maybe I wasn't a thought. I don't know. But in LA, at the LA Coliseum, they had an event called Wax Stacks. I believe that's what it was called, Wax Stacks. It was, think of Woodstock. They had something called Wax Stack. And basically it was like Woodstock, but it was for black folks. They had all these different, black entertainers of that day, like Isaac Hayes. They had Shaka Khan. They had, it was Rufus and Shaka Khan. Then they had all of these other players. If they have clips of it on YouTube, So yeah, if you are someone that's a fan of good music or whatever, you may want to check that out. They did a pretty good job putting that together. Pretty good job when it comes to Black American music history. That is definitely one that you definitely want to check out and download if you can, and but yeah, that was at the LA Coliseum, and it was pretty good. Well, anyway, Jesse Jackson was there and he did the whole thing. I am somebody. I am somebody. Many of you who are my age, you remember those days, where Jesse Jackson, that was his thing. He said, I am somebody. And for many Black folks, it actually did bring up a sense of pride, right? So we're not going to crap on that, right? We're not going to crap on that. You can look at his life and see that there were some things he did that was of note and yeah, it should be acknowledged, right? But we got to look at the whole picture. And so tonight, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about him. I'm going to delve into a book that I came across. Again, that book, it's not in our digital library now, but it will be by the end of the night. I'll make sure I'll put it in the library tonight. But I'm going to read an excerpt from a book. It's talking about this particular event that we're going to get to in a moment. Because it is this event that really was the pivotal moment in Jesse Jackson's civil rights career. And it centers on something that Martin Luther King said in his I Have a Dream speech. He said that we should not be judged by the color of, he didn't want his children to be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Now that is something that resonated with so many people. Even to this day, that is something that resonates with so many people because, of course, most of us do want to be judged in that way. And to be fair and to be honest, many people are judged by the content of their character. I don't, for example, if I go into a store or whatever, and and if someone happens to go the extra mile for me and, to answer my question or whatever, I take note of that. I've had people do that who are Black. I've had people who do that who are white. I've had people do that who were gay, lesbians. I've had people do that were trannies. That doesn't mean I endorse that, but I'm just trying to tell you that when I see somebody who is demonstrating good character, I'm going to acknowledge it. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes I may call their manager and say, look, get this guy a raise, get this girl a raise. Well, give them a raise. But anyway, but yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to get into the Jesse Jackson thing in a moment. Well, we're going to get into, I'm just kind of laying out and then we're going to jump right into the story. Okay. The main course of the evening. Then we're going to branch out and we're going to look at this content of our character. We're going to look at that. But because we're going to talk, Jesse Jackson is going to be the main focal point for this evening at first. Then we're going to use him because Jesse Jackson was actually the face of the Black church. He was a major face, I would say, of the Black church. But Jesse Jackson was also, not only was he the face of the Black church, also Martin Luther King, I think it's safe to say at that time, was the face of the Black church. And we're going to take a quick look at him as well. All right. All staying on this theme that Martin Luther King established, judging people by the content of their character. But then we're going to take a turn and we're going to get back into the discussion that we've been having on this platform for a very long time. And we're going to take a much deeper look at the Black church, because there are some things I'm going to say this evening regarding the Black church is going to make some of y'all very uncomfortable. Some of you guys will get mad for me saying what I'm going to say. I already know what I'm going to say. But it's like I said again, I'm just getting over that little cold situation there. So you getting a lot more Dwayne tonight, okay? But it has to be said. All right. So we're gonna get into that. and we're going to talk about all that. Okay. So anyway, if you're just joining us, good to have you guys. People have been saying that YouTube is having some issues, but I'm so glad that you guys are here. Really appreciate that. And I don't take lightly or for granted that you guys are, that you're spending time with me this evening. But anyway, let's get into this. Let's go to what, like I told you, I said Martin Luther King, he said, my four little children, he said he wants to live in a country where they'll not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. Okay. Now, we'll get into King in a moment, but let's first talk about Jesse Jackson here. Now, Jesse Jackson, as you know, he, for those of you who are familiar with his story, Jesse Jackson just didn't pop up out of nowhere in the 70s. Jesse Jackson was with, the civil rights movement for a very long time, even in his younger years. He was actually a quarterback for North Carolina A&T. I didn't know that. But after that, he got into some student movements and all of that, and he kind of worked his way up a little bit. And, but he, he's where he is now, he got to a certain point or whatever. But anyway, we're going to talk about these things. And so finally he got to a point where, he's in the inner circle of MLK. Okay. And people like Abernathy, Ralph David Abernathy, and many other people within MLK's inner circle, they have not held their tongue at all and made it very clear that they did not really like this dude at all. They felt like he just was up to something. They just didn't really trust him, all that kind of stuff. In light of all the other stuff that they were doing, I mean, if you're going to be doing some of that dark stuff that Abernathy and all them were doing, which we'll get into, I mean, you going to turn around and say you don't like Jesse Jackson? He must have really been someone that they didn't like. But anyway, it probably has something to do with the fact that he was younger and all of that. It may have something to do with that. But anyway, the day comes where MLK, he's in Tennessee, and unfortunately, he meets his demise. Now, to tell the story, what I'm going to do is let me pull up this video here. And I'm going to, I have a video that I came across that I want you to take a listen to. And I want you to hear this individual tell it as far as what actually went down that particular day. This is, let me see which one this was here. Because I had two videos here. I think I passed it. Okay, let me see. I'm just double checking and making sure I got the right video. Okay, so this is Hosea Williams. Hosea Williams, especially if you are someone who is in the who have experience living, or you've lived in Atlanta, or you've been in the Atlanta area, whatever, you've heard the name. Hosea Williams, he's been very present on the streets and all of that. Even this is years after MLK and all of that. He's one of those dudes, that's always, every Christmas, he will always do stuff for the homeless in Atlanta and all that stuff. So he was part of that circle. Hosea Williams was. Well, I want you to take a listen to Hosea Williams' account on, what went down that particular day when MLK met his unfortunate demise here. Give me just a moment here and let me bring it up for you. And let's take a listen to Hosea Williams, and let's go.
In the meeting, and someone said, Reverend Billy Cowles is outside, and he's upset. And Dr. King said, oh my God, I forgot to tell y'all, I promised his wife, who's supposed to be a great soul food cooker, we'd have our feet on her table at 5:30. Now it's 5:45, and we sit in the meeting. Dr. King said, everybody rush, rush, rush. And get ready in a hurry, let's go. So I ran down and got to my room. My key wouldn't open my door for some strange reason. The limousine that had been loaned to us, I opened my door, I could touch the limousine. And finally I heard the driver tell Dr. King, Dr. King, I advise you get your top coat, because even though I have the car on, it's still chilly. And the last words he said in this world, okay, Jonesy, I'll get my top coat. And I heard this thing say, bah! And I honestly thought someone had thrown a firecracker into the air. And I looked around to rebuke whoever was that stupid. And I heard something, bloop fell up above my head. And I looked up, and his leg was sticking through the rail. Dr. King only wore one type of sock and one type of shoe. And I knew that was him. I said, oh, my God, they got it. And then I had to run about 50 feet down and back up, and I got to him. And Ralph was holding his head, and Andy was there. And a guy from Africa who had been traveling with us as a newsman from Africa. We found out later on he was working for the CIA. No, the FBI, working for the FBI. And he'd taken a lot of pictures of Dr. King. And I grabbed him in the throat and started choking him because the bullet hit Dr. King right here.
Hold on. Did you hear what he just said? I didn't know this. He said that it was a guy that was traveling with him. He was an African dude, but he said this guy was actually working for the, he said CIA or FBI. He said later came out that he was working for the FBI / CIA. It's an African guy. Very interesting, worth noting. Anyway, let's continue.
And I went round and cut his medulla oblongata, and I didn't want people to remember Dr. King with half his face shut off. So Andy ran and got a towel, and somehow or another they took one more picture after I made him empty that camera, and it shows Dr. King down with a towel on his face. But I'm going to tell you, I was an expert gunner in World War II. When I ran up on that balcony, and I looked from whence that bullet had to come, the distance of that bullet, and just could feel the wind blowing that day, I said, whomever shot that rifle was one of the best in the world. He shot one bullet. And I believe if Dr. King hadn't moved to go back and get his top coat, the bullet would have hit him between the eyes. The bullet hit him right here. But what happened, and then Ralph said, we'll go in and take him on to the hospital. Hosea, you get all the staff together. 3 of us saw it, Dr. King, after he was shot. 3 SLC executive staff members. Andy, Abernathy, and Hosea Williams. Those are the 3 that saw that body. Now listen to that. So I got in the yard, and I was about to lose my cool, because I was thinking if I could take some molecules out there and make me some guns and kill me some white folks. And one man said, now be cool. You're doing the same thing you're promising me you'll never do. And I started crying, and then I heard Jesse Jackson say,
listen.
He told me, Jesse, take our people on to the mountaintop. And that didn't bother me, even though I know Jesse got nowhere near him. And then Jesse said, I held his head in my hand while he died. And that didn't get to me. And then Jesse said, look at my shirt. And I looked around, sure enough, and Jesse Jackson's shirt was drenched in blood. And I realized the only way Jesse could have gotten that blood was stoop down on that floor at the Lorraine Motel and rake that blood off that floor and put that blood on him. And I went crazy. I really tried to kill Jesse. They grabbed us and all that, but that hurt me so bad. The other thing was, when Abernathy Nose came back, says, no need of prayer, no need of cry, no need of nothing. He is gone. It's over with. He's gone to glory. And we called the meeting, the staff meeting, and Jesse claimed to have been ill. And Abernathy told him, Jesse, go ahead to the room and relax. Jesse had to have run like hell that room into that airport, because he got out of Memphis to Chicago. All us feeling everybody was still in the motel. Cut the televisions on the next morning, and that was Jesse Jackson in Chicago with that same bloody shirt on, telling that same lie. I've never respected Jesse since that moment. When they shot Dr. King, a black guy come running around that corner saying, he went that way, he went that way. James Earl Ray no more killed Dr. King, and I killed him. And everybody knew it. He was a Patsy set up. And the guy said, went that way, went that way. And said, who went that way? He said, that man ran out that building and dropped the rifle on the sidewalk and jumped in a white Mustang, had a red Alabama tag, and took off. Well, hell, I wasn't worried. That's no car in America look like a Mustang, but a Mustang, a white with red Alabama tag. Where's he going? The police have him like that. And I asked that rifle was left on that sidewalk. That was the rifle that James Earl Ray had.
So much to unpack there. So much to unpack. So much to unpack. There's Hosea Williams. Now let's go to this book here. Let's get this up here. Let's see. I'm on page. Give me just a moment here because I don't want to. Let's see. I just want to see what page I'm on. Let's see. How you gonna have a book and don't have a page on it? Okay, let me see. Okay, I'll just tell you the name. I'll read it first, and I'll tell you the title of the book, and then I'll read the excerpt, and then I'll show you the cover. Okay, but yeah, this book we will include it in our digital library too. But let me go ahead and bring this up on the screen, and we could take a look at it. Yeah, I just checked. YouTube is definitely having some issues, but somehow y'all made it. Y'all made it. Anyway, here we go. This is the book here. The name of the book it's called Hellbound on His Trail. The Stalking of Martin Luther King, and it's by an author by the name of Hampton Sides. Okay. Now you heard what Hosea Williams said. Now let's read what's documented in his book. Downstairs, Georgia Davis went back to her room at 201, the room where she and King had shared the night before. King whispered words rang in her ears. Oh, wait a minute, back up. Lord. Okay, let's see. I'll just read it. I'll read it. Anyway, downstairs, Georgia Davis went back to her room 201, the room she and King shared the night before. King's whispered words rang in her ears. Our time together is so short. I touched the pillow, searching for some lingering contact, some connection with him, but all I felt was the cold, clean sheets. Suddenly, she felt a consuming dread. The vision of his body flashed through my mind. She later wrote, I remember all the preachers I had ever heard describing the fiery furnaces, and she thought, I am descending into hell. So I'm going to get to King in a moment here, but I just let's finish this one here first, okay? At one point, Abernathy emerged from the room 306 holding the cardboard backing from a laundered shirt and began scraping King's congealed blood into a jar. You guys know any of this? Have you ever heard this before? He began to scrape his MLK's congealed blood into a jar. As he did so, he wept and said to those assembled on the balcony, this is Martin's precious blood. This blood was shed for us. Lots can be said there. The Memphis photographer Ernest Withers took several shots of the blood. To his eyes, the puddle's shape bore a curious resemblance of King's silhouette. Using a small vial, Withers scooped up some of the blood for himself. He would keep it in his refrigerator for many years. Did you guys ever read any of that before? That anybody ever tell you that in your history books? Anyway, let's move on. A lot just in that little passage there. Jesse Jackson went a step further. Young recalled seeing Jackson leaning over and pressing his palms down flat in a pool of drying blood. He stood up, raised his crimson hands to the sky, and wiped them down in front of his shirt. Minutes later, Jackson, not bothering to change his stained shirt, left for the airport to catch the last flight to Chicago. There's nothing that unusual about it, Young later said. We Baptists, we believe there's power in the blood power that's transferable. I've never heard of a Baptist saying that anything about blood power in humans. I've never heard that. That's the first time I've heard of that. Baptists, if you're a Baptist, a current Baptist or a former Baptist, have you ever practiced in any of this? Is this normal? Does that sound normal to you, where you take blood, human blood, and smear it on yourself? I've never heard of that. Never heard of that at all. I knew about the story about Jesse Jackson and what he did and all of that, but I didn't know about them, scraping up MLK's blood and putting it in jars and all of that. I didn't know that. But see, this is the pivotal point, because when Jesse Jackson went to Chicago and he went there and he had the bloody shirt and all that other stuff on, that was the point where, and again, you heard what they said. Jesse Jackson said, he told me that I'm supposed to take the people to the promised land. And that was his pivotal point, where all of a sudden the eyes of the media began to shift towards Jesse Jackson. And I think they did that, the system or whatever you want to call it. The reason why they wanted to shift to Jesse Jackson is because he was younger. He was a lot younger, and he was a lot malleable, if you will. Ralph David Abernathy, Hosea Williams, some of these other dudes, they were older then. You know what I mean? They were all, in the same age bracket as King. When I say older, I mean, King was like, in his 30s when he died. So older is relative, but you know what I'm saying. But this was the pivotal moment where we saw the quote unquote anointing, if you will, that was on MLK getting moved over to Jesse Jackson. So Jesse Jackson's entire career was built on that. I want to make that very clear. And so when I'm listening to all of these people today talking about how Jesse Jackson was this and he did that and he was a trailblazer and he did all that stuff, it's very difficult for me to take any of that in when I know this man did that. And then the only thing that keeps ringing in my ear over and over again is the words of MLK himself, where he said that a man should not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. That, in that moment, was his character. And Jesse Jackson, any accomplishment, I don't care if Jesse Jackson walked on water and carried 5,000 loaves of fish and bread. I don't care. I don't care about any of that. I don't care if he went into the hood and healed everybody. I don't care about any of that stuff. But what I do care about is if you got your start doing that kind of stuff like that dark, demonic stuff like that, I don't want to have anything to do with you. And see, the problem is that you got a lot of folks that are willing to overlook all of that stuff. And this is where we're going to bridge into the church. We're going to bridge into the church in a moment. But like I said, again, I've done videos already where we have talked about MLK and his whole liaisons that he was known for that. MLK, he had women in just about every city he went into. He had women that he would sleep with and all of that. They would be, him and his preacher friends, they would be practicing these orgies, engaging in orgies and stuff with black women, white women, whomever they can get their hands on, they were doing this. And Coretta Scott King, she even knew this. But she played along. Coretta Scott King actually set the boundary, or rather, she set the standard for all other first ladies in the black church. And this is where we're going to get into it, y'all. So that's why I said, buckle your seats, because it's going to get rough. It is going to get rough. But I wanted to stay right there with the whole content of judging someone by the content of their character. Because like I said, again, let me repeat myself for those of you who are like, oh, you keep repeating yourself. Well, I'm going to keep doing it. But character should be something that obviously you and I, we know it should count, right? And we're not going to deviate from that. We're going to measure someone by their character, right? We're going to look at what they do, not so much of what they're saying or what they're just talking about. We want to measure people by what they do. You understand what I'm saying? part of what I do on this platform. I know there's other popular platforms where people don't even show their face. I want to show my face because this is a part of me. This is who I am. When I'm communicating to people, I want to see all of it. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna be taking you to my bedroom and taking you to my bathroom and all of that stuff, but I'm gonna just give it to you. You know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna tell you. And so, so character is something. I don't care what the trends are. I don't care whatever it is. It's sexy, it ain't sexy or whatever. But at the end of the day, I don't care what the persuasion is. Most people do care about character, and they will measure people based on that. Do you understand what I'm saying? And Jesse Jackson is one of many people within the black church where the black church, even though they will lionize Martin Luther King and what he said about judging people by the content of their character, the system of the black church has never has measured anybody by the content of their character when we start looking at the history of leadership within the black church. I can give you many stories when we look back into the history. If you go back to our series that we talked about how the black church, now again, let's just, for those of you who nitpick a lot, am I saying everybody in the black church is evil, wicked, and demonic? No. There's some very good people in the black church, just like in other churches as well, okay? We're talking about the system. We're talking about the system, the organization. That's what we're talking about, okay? The black church, the system, for a very long time has become an industry of broken black boys. Let me say it again. The black church has become an industry of broken black boys. And I'll also say broken black women as well, girls as well. And that's what my series, I think it's called something like that. It's an industry of broken black children. I want to challenge you now to do a search when YouTube hopefully comes back up. I want you to do a search and tell me how many videos can you find on this platform where someone is meticulously talking about the long rap sheet of the Church of God in Christ and all the times where bishop after bishop after preacher after preacher after bishop has been arrested over and over again because they've been messing around with children. How many videos you think you're going to find on YouTube? I haven't found one. So when we did our video, all of that had to come. I had to go and I had to dive into books. I had to go into articles. Some of these articles, they weren't, it was like, dang, I found this old Jet article and all. I had to really dig to get all of that. And it was a book that someone published like a long time ago. And it was one of those, like, they published it once and that was it and all that. That was very hard to find the resources and the references that I put in that book, in that video. It was a 2-part series. And people may say, well, how is this? How are you linking this to Jesse Jackson and all of that? Because Jesse Jackson, again, for a man to feel that comfortable to do something like that, what that means we have to now look at the system and see, well, how did this system produce someone like that and protect this man for all of these years and defended him and lifted him up as if he was the, what we call it, if Martin Luther King was Jesus and I guess he was John the Baptist or something, I don't know. But black folks protected this man in light of doing that. See, for me, that's a no starter for me. If I had known that would be a no starter for me. I wouldn't be quiet on that. But you got a whole class of people that see all this dark stuff that be going on in these churches and they don't say a doggone thing. Nothing. They don't say a doggone thing. And that's what produces these leaders. These type of leaders that you see in these churches. I remember not too long ago, there was a black preacher that came out, very popular guy, came out and he acknowledged that, he was, committed some sin or whatever, but he never ever came out and said exactly what it was and said, I'm gonna need to step down and all of that. And, like I always do when I see stories like that, I'm going to call them out, regardless if they black preachers, white preachers, or whatever. I did a whole video where most of the preachers I talked about were white. You know what I mean? When they were doing that kind of stuff. And then same thing with black folks. Same thing. And as long as I was talking about everybody else, this individual was okay. Couldn't amen me enough. But the moment their pastor got mentioned, all of a sudden, the whole thing came out. The whole rest of them came out. All of a sudden, who do you think you are? And all this stuff. I said, goodbye. Bye. Goodbye. But we need to look a little bit deeper at this system here. We need to look deeper at this system that we call the church. Now, you've heard me say many times in the past, and I will say it again. The black church is a matriarchal system. The black church is a matriarchal system, and it is not a system designed for straight black men. It's not. And I know people ain't going to like that, but trust me, I'm going to get a little more graphic in a moment. It is not designed for that. The black church is designed exclusively for black women and LGBTQ crowd. That's who the black church is designed for. Okay. And let me give you an idea of this right here. Let me see if I can pull this video up. This is a video. I have not watched the video in its entirety, but I do. I want you to see this particular clip here. Where was this here? Okay. This was on the platform, The Art of Dialogue. And I want you to take a listen to this conversation. And it's really something, because what they did was they gathered a bunch of men together, and I'm gonna put men in air quotes here, and you'll see in a moment. And they were talking about women's issues, but I want you to see how they're positioning this stuff. And I want to see if you notice anything here. I want to see if you notice anything here. Let me get back to this right here. Hold on for a sec. Okay. So let me play this clip here. And I want you to listen to this here and just study the people here as they're talking.
Power. So I'm really about power, and it's from the legacy of the Black Power movement. And I don't think you can get any closer to power than the person who birthed it.
Right. Yes.
The black woman, yes. Right?
Yes.
A lot of the time, it's black men that stand in the way of it, right? That get in the way of, what we're supposed to be empowering, which we're supposed to be collaborating with. And so when we're thinking about things like, Sister Song is steeped in reproductive justice. And when we talk about reproductive justice, it's the human right for bodily autonomy. Now, here's the thing. I get into all the academic terms and then I get confused. So we're going to get into it for real about what this means to us, what the human right to bodily autonomy, the human right to have kids, to not have kids, to parent kids in a healthy environment, to set up that environment, and what goes into that actually means to us. And I want to make sure that, the way we're talking about it, other people can understand it, because I know for a fact, if people came to me however many years ago and was like, hey, what you think about reproductive justice? I would have a very confused look on my face. And I'm like, I don't know exactly what that means and how we engage with it. But everybody here comes from a different perspective, a different life, different experiences. And we want to bring that to this conversation. So I know that there's no way to get there without the empowerment of black women and centering black women in that power talk, in that power struggle, in that power strategy, in that movement, in our behavior. And what in y'all's eyes does that mean to you? Like, from y'all's experience, what's your connection to or experience with reproductive justice, and what does that actually mean to you?
Okay, so just so that you get a little bit more background, so I'll tell you right now, just because I told you the filters aren't really there tonight. Most the guys that first of all, you got quite a few gay men that are leading the conversation, and I could play for you another clip where it gets a little heated too between a gay man and actor Clifton Davis. Maybe I'll play it later. Not sure, but anyway. So this was organized by a reproductive justice organization, and you have gay men who are basically approaching, you got some of the guys on there that, I believe they're straight, who knows, but for the most part, they're trying to make the straight argument, so to speak. And I want you to take, of course, obviously you take note of the individuals that are there. They're clearly gay, and then you also have them talking about, how the woman, she needs to be centered and she's the power and all of this other stuff. And so as we delve into this a little bit more, we're going to talk about this black church thing in a much deeper level that you probably have never heard anybody talk like this before, but we're going to do it. And so, first of all, number one, let me just clear the deck here so that we're on the same page and I'm being 100% like straight up with y'all. All right. Oh, someone dropping receipts. Y'all. Anyway, let me be very clear. Okay, where I stand when it comes to people who are identified as, you're a gay man, you're a lesbian woman, you're tranny or whatever. Let me be very clear so that there's no confusion at all. Okay, I am a straight man, period. Okay, my wife, she's straight as well. Same goes for my children. Okay, we've demonstrated that to them, and that's it. We love our children and all of that, right? And that's our family. My parents, same thing with my wife's parents as well. Okay, so we come from part of our story is that is our story. I do, when you branch out a little bit, I do have at least one or two relatives who are of those different persuasions or whatever, but I don't love them any less. And I would say the same thing and they know where I stand. And where exactly do I stand? Going back to what I said earlier about judging people by the content of their character, that's all I look at, quite honestly. At the end of the day, I'm just like anybody else, I'm looking at your character. And if you're somebody that's, we can, talk about, life, we could talk about this, that, or whatever, just like any other person, I'm cool. I ain't, that's it. I ain't, I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? And I don't try not to give it a second thought. I'll just say that, but what I also know is this, and this is going to be quite shocking for some people, is that let me posture it this way, and then I'll continue. Now, this is for gay men. This is a question that I want to pose for anybody out here who is listening who may be gay. Okay, let me ask you something. Can you tell me what is the biological benefit of mixing reproductive fluid with waste? Let me ask that again. I know that was like, whoa, did you just go there? Yes, I did. Let me ask you again. Can you tell me what is the biological benefit of mixing reproductive fluid with bodily waste? That's what I would like to know. Because, and this doesn't just apply, of course, to gay men, because you also have heterosexual people who engage in that behavior as well. But for gay men, that is an exclusive act that you have. You don't have too many choices. So what is the benefit of that? Because when we look at nature does everything for a reason. There is a reason. And before you go there and start naming all the different animals within nature who engage in what appears to be homosexual behavior, let's be clear on that. Number one, when you do look at it, these animals are not identifying as a different gender. They're not doing that. So that's number one. Number two, scientists, when you look at all the science, they tell you that in all of those cases, when you see animals engaging in that, they are doing that more so as, they're rehearsing for the real thing. That's, sometimes you'll see animals do that. Like sometimes you see lions do that, or even birds, or even fish or whatever. And sometimes they just engage in that just as a way of rehearsing for the actual thing when they are with another species like themselves that's of the opposite sex. But you're not going to find a gay bird just going, flying around all day. You know what I mean? You ain't going to find that. You know what I mean? So, no. So you're not going to find that. Okay. But everything in nature, it has a very specific reason. That's why I asked the question I asked. Is there a biological basis, a benefit to the human body when you mix those two things together? But here's the other thing. If you want to stay on the human, or rather the animal comparison, don't just nitpick if you're going to use animals as your base for, your basis, if you will, because animals also practice infanticide. They also eat their young. Animals also will abandon their children. So if you're going to take your cues from the animal kingdom, don't just stop with what they practice when they're having intercourse. Look at the whole animal. If you're going to, don't just look at one thing, look at all of it. You understand what I'm saying? And it's quite ironic that individuals will on one hand tell us, don't just identify me with what I do in the bedroom. But when I'm talking like this, the first thing you want to do is to call out what animals are doing in their intimacy, but to justify your choice. You understand what I'm saying? So no, you're going to have to there are some basic things you're going to have to answer. Okay. So I'm going to tell you. So I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to be very respectful, right? I'm going to be very respectful. Ultimately, I understand you as an adult, you can make whatever choices you make and live your life. That's you, right? But as a man, I'm going to tell you the truth. As a straight man, I'm going to tell you the truth. Okay? And let me just straighten that out real quick. I'm a man. I'm not a straight man. I'm a man. And a man, there is no, because a man could be straight or he could be, no. It's only one type of man, period. That's it. Okay? We can acknowledge, people as human beings. You understand what I'm saying? And we can respect people as human beings, right? I'll respect anybody as long until you give me a reason not to. Okay? That's me. That's me. I don't have any problem with anybody other than that. I don't care what you do in your bedroom. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care who you're dating. That's none of my business, nor do I care it to be any of my business, right? But when you start trying to force me into accepting your choices and your decisions, then of course you're going to get what I'm going to tell you everything I'm telling you now. It's not going to change. It's not going to change me any bit, not one bit at all. You understand what I'm saying? So I have to make that all the way clear so you know exactly where I'm coming from as we are diving into this, as we're talking about what I'm getting ready to talk about right now. Okay. So when we look at the church has been a factory of creating broken boys, taking these broken boys and and allowing them to develop, in many cases, into broken men. And when you talk to a lot of these homosexual men, in many of their stories, unfortunately, there was an uncle, there was an auntie, because you got women who abuse little boys too. There was a pastor, there was a school teacher, there was a coach. Somebody did something to them that what it did was actually triggered something in such a way in their psyche that caused them to rethink who they really are. And if you followed or watched our video about circumcision and what takes place during circumcision and how you're actually being reprogrammed, your brain is literally being reprogrammed through trauma. You are being reprogrammed. When they traumatize you, when they cut you like that, you are being reprogrammed. Go watch the video. I'm not going to spend all time on that tonight. but that's what's happening. And so in these churches, what you have is a whole system where these young boys, and I'm saying young boys, but it's girls too. Okay, it's girls too. I'm not leaving them out, okay? Because you got girls who have been, little girls that have been abused as well, okay? Many times in these churches. But I'm focusing on these boys. And what happens is a lot of times this abuse will take place for years. And instead of people standing up and saying, you know what, that's wrong. You know what churches will say a lot of times, especially if it's a pastor or a leader or something like that. You know what they'll say? Well, you know, hey, listen, we've all have sinned. No, the hell we haven't. No, the hell we haven't. I ain't never messed with no little children like that. I ain't messed with no little boys or little girls. I ain't do no mess like that. But I've seen over and over again, this thing gets played out like this. Again, and down at New Birth, you gonna sit up there and tell me that nobody knew that Eddie Long was messing around with them little boys? Nobody knew. Nobody knew that he went messing around with little boys like that. Nobody knew at all. People knew. And I guarantee his wife knew. He's in his own house taking pictures of himself in these muscle shirts and all of that. And she just totally oblivious. Don't even know at all. Because within these churches, there is a system that protects weak. It not only protects weak men, it produces weak men. And it teaches them that that's okay, baby. It's all right. It's all good. It's all good. It's okay. We all mess up. All have sinned. All have sinned. We've all fallen short. I was thinking about that song, We Fall Down and We Get Up. Donnie McClurkin. I was thinking about his song, we fall down and then get up, we fall down, and I remember when the song came out and I was sitting there and I think we were in church then. And I'm looking around and I'm like, we was doing praise and worship and all that. And then they'll play that and I'll just be looking around and I have to pause and think for a second and just pay attention to what I'm saying. And I was like, I said, I don't know about anybody else, but this sounds kind of circular to me. I said, that sounds kind of circular to me. It's like we fall down, the whole song. We fall down and we get up. We fall down, we get up. We fall down, we get up. For a saint is just a sinner who fell down and got up. Get back up again, get back up again, get back up again, get back up again. And, it wasn't until recently I thought about that, thinking about him, Donnie McClurkin. And I said, he was actually telling his story. Because what just came out recently, I don't know if you caught this on the news or not, but it's all coming out now. I mean, first of all, when Donnie McClurkin first came on the scene, I knew the man was gay. I mean, I don't know anybody that didn't see him and then think otherwise, but it's kind of in the church world, it's kind of like, oh, well, he's probably on the effeminate side and all of that. But hey, that's all right. It's the anointing because the boy can sing. He can sing. You know how they say, oh, he can blow. Makes you really think now when they say that now, huh? What do they mean by that? Anyway, but they would say that kind of stuff, and just, oh, he's okay, whatever. But in reality, it's all coming out now. This man, literally his entire life, he's been falling down and getting back up, falling down and getting back up, falling down and getting back up. And then because he said it himself, I'm just a saint who's just really a sinner who fell down, but I get back up again and I fall down and I get back up again. He was literally going back and forth with this one guy that we know of. He would struggle back and forth. He said, okay, I want to be your mentor. That's how it always starts. And then next thing you know, one thing leads to another. He said, oh, we can't do this anymore. Then he comes back and he does it again. And then so forth and so on. You telling me nobody knew? Nobody knew. I remember something else came out with, not Donnie McClurkin, it was the other Kirk Franklin. When he came out, when he was first coming out and his stuff was hot, they were talking about how this stuff that they were running and doing. I mean, just open with it. All people just sleeping on that whole choir. Everybody just sleeping with one another. Should we talk about commissioned? Should we talk about them? Same thing. The stories are rampant. And the system that I'm talking about is a system that actually protects and promotes this kind of lifestyle. And this is exactly why you get leadership like a Jesse Jackson. But let's get even deeper with this, shall we? Let's get a little bit deeper with this. The church, let me start off the conversation. Let me start off with this. Now, this is going to be shocking. What is the difference between a worship service in the black church and a vibrator? I want you to think about what I just said. One requires batteries. That wasn't meant to be a joke. Now let me explain what I just said. The church in of itself, as I said earlier, is a place for black women. It's a black female LGBTQ organization. When these people are going to church, when you go to the average black church, who do you see most of in these pews? It's women. There's nothing wrong with that in of itself, right? Now, what is one of the parts of the service that's probably the most important part outside of the tithes and offerings? It's worship. Now, I'm going to prove to you that these churches are dedicated in worshiping a God. And if you think it's the God of the Bible, you're sorely mistaken. Okay, so get ready. When you look at praise and worship, we are told, is a time of intimacy between you and the Bible God. All right, that's what we're told. But do you actually see the Bible God when you're engaged in praise and worship? Do you actually see that? Do you actually see that happening? No. When you walk into a church and you see them engaging in praise and worship, the only people you see engaging in praise and worship are the people who are on one side of the bed, if you will. That's the only people. And so they are doing all of this stuff, praising God, worshiping, tears coming down their eyes, shaking, quaking, doing whatever it is that they do, you do during praise and worship, until they get tired. We don't hear from the other side of who the worship is going towards. We don't hear from that side, do we? We just assume that the God that they're claiming to worship is saying, oh, okay, that's enough. We just assume that. No, we only hear one side of the intimate moment that's saying, whoo, okay, whoo, I got a lot out of that worship service. Whoo, I got a lot of that praise and worship service. So you're only getting one side of this intimate moment that's getting all what they're want to get out of it, but the other side you never hear. Now, what does that sound like to you? So these churches, especially, it's men too. Men, and it's the same thing. That's what makes it crazy, is that you are engaging in an intimate moment, this praise and worship moment, but you're only hearing one side of it. Now, for those of us who have experience in that area, when you are intimate with your spouse, right? When you're intimate with your spouse, part of it is that you are literally pulling from each other, right? So you get to, in real time, you are pulling from her and she's pulling from you and that kind of thing. That's not the case in praise and worship. That's not the case in praise and worship. In praise and worship, it's until you get tired. So in black churches today, you have these institutions that are full of women who are engaging in an intimate time until they get tired. Now, what does that sound like to you? Oh, you still think I'm crazy? I kind of went too far with that. Okay, well, let me show you some more stuff here. So, let me help you out. It's okay. It's okay. And I don't, and trust me, y'all, I don't say things for shock value and all this other stuff. I don't do any of that stuff, but like I told you, I already warned y'all tonight. Tonight, very little filters tonight, but it is what it is tonight, because I'm just going to tell you. Hold on, let me just switch up to this here. Give me just a moment. Give me a moment here. Oh. Here it is, here it is, here it is, here it is, here it is. I have it here. Now, this woman has a background in theology. Her name is Christina Cleveland. And she has a book called God is a Black Woman. This is it. Oh, there you go. She has I'm sorry, let me refresh this so you can see it. God is a Black Woman. I've written an extraordinary, beautiful book, and I'm so excited to share it with you. Go get your copy today. God is a Black Woman. Okay, no, I don't want any of that. Let me refresh this and just see what she's saying here.
I embarked on the journey that became God as a Black woman because deep down inside, I needed to believe that my Black and female body is sacred too. And so I set out on a journey across France to this region that is known for its devotion to the Black Madonnas, and I walked over 400 miles so I could encounter 18 different Black Madonnas in these tiny mountain villages. And I allowed each one to transform me, transform my relationship to my body, transform my relationship to my understanding of who is sacred and what is profane. It's a glorious experience to be on this journey, and I really hope you join me in journeying towards God as a Black woman.
Okay, it blocked the video, but you heard what she was saying here. Now, again, this woman, but I want you to understand, this woman has a background in theology. And this book has been out for some time. I've yet to hear any real pushback on this at all. Let's hear. This is in Amazon. Let's pull this up. But I have something else here I'm going to show too. Here you go. This is the Amazon write-up for it. It says, in this much needed book, theologian, social psychologist, and activist Christina Cleveland recounts her personal journey to dismantle the cultural white male God and uncover the sacred Black feminine, including a Black female God who endues us with hope, healing, and liberating presence. All right, so that's her there. And then you got another one here. Hold on, let's see. There was something else I wanted to write here. Some of y'all have seen this. Oh, here it is. Okay, so many of you guys have seen this phrase, oftentimes come up here. It's this right here. And that is, I met God and she was Black. People say this a whole lot as well. But these aren't just shirts and these aren't just books. This is an entire ideology. A while back ago, a long time ago, I did I did a video on womanism, and we went and I told you the root of womanism, and it started all the way. It's this theology, this ideology. It started in this college. It's not coming to mind right now. It's in upper state New York, And you have many black female preachers that have come out of this this seminary up in New York State, and they teach something called womanism. So anytime you hear womanism is basically the black version of feminism. That's basically what it is. So when you hear someone describe themselves as a womanist, or, they're basically it's black feminism. And I gave you the whole, it was Dr. Cone. Some of the names are coming back to me now. This person was the founder of this womanist movement. And, but it's a video I did a long time ago on that, where I took you to the school. We showed you all the different members, the main people who were leading this. And I was showing you all the women. I was like, man, they look hard, don't they? But a lot of these individuals who are ministers, female ministers throughout the black church, they have come through that. And so this is the kind of stuff that they actually believe in. So when you go into a church, there is literal self-worship that's going on. What these individuals did, and I'm about to say something else that's going to be, this only way I can describe it is that because these individuals have made themselves into God, because we just explained the praise and worship piece of it, but because these individuals have made themselves into God, they did something that in the Bible God declared in the book of Genesis. What did he say when he wanted to create Adam? He said, let us make man in our own image. So what we have seen and witnessed in the black church is this basically the black church has become the modern day version of Dr. Frankenstein's laboratory. And the surprise part of it is, if you think that the pastor is Dr. Frankenstein, he actually isn't. He's actually Igor. The Frankenstein, or the Dr. Frankenstein, is the women that run the church. Igor, he's just there to assist. He's just glad to have a full church. He's just glad to get tithe and offering money. So he's fine with that. But these individuals have literally said, let us make man in our own image. And that is what, unfortunately, when you look at the black church today, it is a whole factory of producing broken children like this, like these individuals here. And so bringing it back to Jesse Jackson, I know that we took kind of a long route there, but I wanted you to, let's look at him. And then we look at MLK, but we got to look at some point, we have to look at the system, and why does the system keep producing people like this? And this system is always trying to get us to laud and to applaud these individuals like there's some big whatever. But at the same time, they want to tell you to ignore their stuff and stop buying into this all have sinned and fallen short. If you are someone, for example, we're talking about children being messed around with, and you didn't engage in that, that's wrong. Okay, a mistake is driving too fast in a speed zone. A mistake is maybe you dropped your plate. A mistake is, let's say you slept late or something like that. A dang mistake ain't you slipped and fell and your clothes came off and you fell on a child. That ain't no mistake. And I'm telling you right now, this stuff goes on a lot. I could tell you some stuff, y'all. And and I want to say this too, on the other side of this, because I want to be clear in everything I'm saying tonight. I am not saying that all black women who go to these churches are evil, wicked, and demonic. That is not what I'm saying. Because I also want to acknowledge too, that just like Coretta Scott King, she knew a lot of stuff what her husband was doing, but she chose to hold that in. I'm telling you right now, there are many older black women, and I emphasize that, older black women. You may be watching me right now, where you have trained yourself to hold in stuff for years and years and years. I could tell you some stories where you have been abused over and over again, and the abuse is so bad, even your children, once they've got of age, they continued where your husband left off. But because of the position that your husband holds, You just learn to keep it all in. So sometimes when I do get this clap back from church women, I also keep that in mind. That's why I don't take it personal. Because I understand that you got some women out here, they've seen some stuff. And they unfortunately have been in this place that they've just kept this stuff all in. And what I want to say from the bottom of my heart, listen, I can't apologize for it because that wasn't me. But from the bottom of my heart, I will tell you this, you need to go get some counseling. That's what I would say. If you find yourself in that situation, because like the old saying goes, hurt people hurt people. And what I'm trying to tell you is that this system continues to spit out leaders in our community who are broken in this area, because nobody will stand up and start saying, you know what, enough is enough. Nobody will stand up and say, we got to stop with this producing these broken children, these broken men, these broken women. It is not normal for us to sit up here and I cannot and I will not have if I'm going to have a conversation about progressing or moving the Black community forward, I will not be sitting at the same table with a homosexual or a lesbian or a transvestite. I will not be doing that. And it's not because it's because I hate them, because I don't. It's because if we're going to talk about being progressive, we're going to have to be serious. Did you hear about the shooting that took place in Canada recently? I think it was in Canada. Another transvestite came out and started shooting people and killing folks. We can probably count on two hands now all of these mass shootings. The overwhelming majority of them have been transvestites. But according to Coretta Scott King, and I should have had the clip pulled up, but I played it before. Just look it up. Coretta Scott King, out of her own mouth, said that the purpose of the civil rights movement wasn't just for Black people. She said it was also for the LGBTQ community. That's what she said out of her mouth. She said that. And she said that it was at an event, an LGBTQ parade or something, event. It was in Atlanta. She said that. She said that. And my response to that is, no, the hell it wasn't. My ancestors were not marching for that. They were not marching for that. They didn't have that in mind when they had to deal with Jim Crow. They weren't thinking about that. Are you going to sit up here and cheapen Black legacy, Black American legacy, to the level where you're going to sit up there and tell us that your ancestors, my ancestors, did what they went through so that a Black woman, a little Black girl, can have the right to cut her breast off? You're going to tell me that's what they marched for? You're going to tell me that? You're going to tell me that? You got young Black girls all across this nation that are lining up at these clinics and electing to have their breasts cut off. They are electing to literally have skin stripped off of their arms. I've showed you the videos as much as I could. I've shown you the photos. What they do in these procedures, the procedures that Coretta Scott King said with her mouth that your people march for. They march for the right for a girl to have her skin peeled off of her arm, skin peeled off of her thigh. And in most cases, you can't replace it. In other words, it's there. So that's why a lot of times you'll see trannies or whatever, or people that have gone through the whole surgery, you'll see a lot of times they cover that up because it's too expensive to replace that. And they take that skin, and that's when they formulate a male part. They're stripping this off. You gonna sit up there and tell me that's natural? Hold on. You gonna tell me that that's natural? You can't point to one thing in nature where birds are literally ripping off parts of their bodies so that they can look like another animal. You will never see that. So I know that for me, I'm part of a dying breed that's going to tell you the truth, but I'm going to tell you the truth. Okay, when it comes to this kind of stuff, it is not normal. It is not natural. You're not going to catch me at some table and you think we're going to all sit down and let's see how we can move. No, let's get you some help first. Okay, let's get you some help first. And for the men that are here, do you need help too? Because it don't just stop with LGBTQ. You got people out here that just generally need some help about some other things. Do you understand what I'm saying? It ain't just the gender stuff. It's other stuff too. But we're going to have to be serious about this. And like I said, again, I know it's after me, after my generation. I think we're it. So I'm going to, I'm speaking in 80s lingo here, when it comes to, you got your quarter when you going to play your video games. This is my last quarter and I'm going to play it. I'm going to play this quarter and I'm going to tell you that ain't normal. It is not natural. And we're dealing with a system, unfortunately, that's embedded in the Black community that has dedicated itself to this kind of production. And it's about time we start calling this stuff out for what it is. We don't hate the women. We don't hate the men, but we have to love them enough to tell them the truth and to call it out for what it is. In the Black church, in its present state, it is not equipped to help, aid, or assist a Black family. It's not equipped to do that other than handing out food. That's about it. It's not. And make sure you check out the post I did recently. I think I posted it yesterday. I talked about Black representation. That's a whole nother thing that this particular group of individuals, they love promoting this whole thing of, well, we got someone that at least he's Black, at least he's up here. Okay, just because the person is Black and they're in the system that you're calling racist, does it necessarily mean that you're going to move forward because they're Black? How further along in life did you move forward since Obama was in office for how many years? How long was Obama in office and how much did you personally move forward? Well, forget Obama. Look at all the Black people that still work for the federal government. How much further along did you personally benefit from that? You understand what I'm saying? These are the type of conversations that we must have, we must engage in, because it has to start. We're going to have to be honest, okay? We're going to have to be real, and we're going to have to be honest when we're talking about these things. I don't want any more Jesse Jacksons. Wherever he is, go. Then he gone. But I don't want any more Jesse Jacksons. And quite honestly, to be honest with you, I don't want any more MLKs. And I'm saying this as an individual who grew up, just MLK was everything to me. But once I start reading more about everything else, I don't want to duplicate that life. Think about that for a second. Why on earth would I tell a child to duplicate his life? You got a woman in every state. Do you? Oh, well, that was the other side of him. No, I don't want my child, my son. He don't have other sides. Like, this is my son. He's this, but when he get out this house, he's something else. And then when he's around this person, he's something else. No, you don't do that. You see me here, you're going to see me in the street. If you see me, the only difference you're going to see me, if you see me in the street, I ain't talking. Usually most of the time, I'm very quiet. I'm dipping in and dipping out. I'm never as verbose as this outside of this. But once we get to talking, it'll be like, oh yeah, you the same way. It's going to be, you're going to get the same thing. You're going to get the same exact thing. Right? And that's how we should be. But I know that's hard for some people to hear that. I know that's very hard for people to hear that. You're saying you don't want to grow up, you don't want children to, just hold them up as a standard. No, I don't. No, I don't. We got to deal with that. That's not, and he wasn't gay. Well, he may not have been gay, but where were the voices in his life to say, you know what, King, that's wrong. Bruh, you can't do that. You can't be out here preaching content of character and your character is you know what. You can't be doing that. Where were the men to tell him that? Where were the women to tell him that? These are the questions in 2026 we need to be asking. Not just sitting up here and, oh, they're going to build another statue and, oh, we're going to do this and that or what. No, we need to start asking those kind of questions. Why? Because if you want the legacy to continue, if you want a solid legacy, you're going to have a solid will to ask these types of questions and deal with them head on, period, end of discussion. That's it. That's all I have for you. And like Todd Wilson, he just said here, he said, can't build from a faulty foundation. I mean, couldn't say it any better. You cannot build from a faulty foundation. If the foundation is off, so be everything else. You think I'm just making this up? You think I'm being too nitpicky? Look at, in 2026, we still have black folks who still look at America with great disdain. Many black Americans still feel as if nothing has changed. You still have black Americans who are still struggling with some of the same things that we were struggling with back in the 60s. The only thing that's changed now is now all of a sudden, we're going to demand reparations. How you going to do that? How you going to do that? Well, we're going to make sure we get the right person in office. You still ain't learned anything. Still ain't learned a doggone, they ain't learned nothing. Do you understand what I'm saying? Still haven't learned. And when you're dealing with crippled leadership, it's always going to keep you on a loop. And what I'm telling you is the black community as we know it today is still in this loop. You don't have to be a part of that. And we talk about that. Yes, we talk about solutions all the time. You can free yourself from this loop. But if you are going to continue to lionize these people, you're going to continue to stay in this loop. You're going to always stay complaining and you'll never move forward. It's time to break free. And you can do that. There is a solution and there are ways you can do that. Okay? Well, anyway, that's all I have for you guys. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate you guys being here. And you guys take care. Remember, make sure you check out our website, sombertree.com. We still got a lot of produce, but hurry up now because the season is about over with. So make sure you check that out as well, okay? And also, we'll have some content going up on Somber Tree YouTube page tomorrow as well. Nicole, she has her life coach thing that she's got going on. We're gonna have some content going up on that tomorrow. Already got some testimonies of people already coming in, so if you haven't checked that out, make sure you check that out. That's on our website as well, because again, y'all, we're not just talking about solutions. We're positioning ourselves where we're part of the solution, and I know many of you are doing the same thing, and that's why I know I'm in good company. So thank you again for tuning in. You guys take care, and I'll see you again in the next broadcast. Take care. See you again.